What's up, everybody? We are live here again tying a Euro jig streamer. This is our just Euro jig small streamer. It's a small rainbow pattern. This is super easy and quick to tie. They come out really beautiful. So we're excited about sharing this pattern with all of you. I know a few of you have been pretty excited based on our interactions on Instagram at TLE Media on Insta. So if you'd like to see some more flies that we tie, check out our Instagram page. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so that way you get notified when we go live. We are going to be scheduling these tying sessions like we talked about going forward, so that way you can have materials ready and tie this fly along with us in the future. So this is what that fly looks like, and it is a really simple pattern. It's just a little bit of UV resin and a few materials and a few markers. So we're going to go ahead and get started on tying this fly for you. And the first thing we are going to use is a simple piece of marabou. So we have white marabou. This is going to be our tail. We're going to line all of the tips, and we're just going to use the very back section of that marabou. We don't worry too much about this marabou not allowing the fly to sink at a decent rate, because we're going to be using quite a bit of resin on this fly. The first thing we're going to do is start our fly tying thread, and we use a heavier thread because we want to eliminate adding any lead in this fly. You can add lead if you'd like, but we're going to just right behind the bead build up a little ramp so we can secure that bead, and then work our, once it's secure and that bead doesn't want to move, we will then just walk our thread back right before the bend of the hook. Alright, so we got our thread going, and now we're going to take that piece of marabou we just showed you, align all of our tips. We're going to measure. I like the tail to be roughly the length of the fly behind the bead. And I'm going to snip off this extra material before I tie it in. Give my thread a little spin to the right. And we're going to secure that tail. So we secured our tail. We're going to take one wrap under our tail, and then we'll do a couple over top again, do another one of those, and that just helps to pull all those pieces of material together. And we're going to add a tiny bit of flash into the tail portion. You can use whatever flash you want. Because this is a Euro fly, we want something that's not going to hold water, allow it to sink, so we're going to use this real thin piece of material here. You can pick this up at any craft store. A friend of mine gave this to me, so we're going to pull out 3 or 4 strands of that, just like a very fine tinsel. We're going to tie in on the near side of the hook. We're going to grab those pieces of material, pull them to the other side, lay them right in line with the tail, give it a few wraps over top, and then we're going to snip it. We want these materials the same length as our tail. So the next piece of material we're going to use is just a piece of lateral scale. You can see that's got a nice opal or opaque look. You can use, again, any piece of flash you would like, and this is going to be our underbody. This is what's going to give the fly its shimmer and color when it's flashing back and forth in the water. I'm going to take my tying scissors and just snip off a little angle so that way I can grab it with the thread, and then I'll walk it back to the tail. So now you can see we do have a little bit of a gap here, and if you wanted to take your marabou all the way up to behind the bead, that would make it nice and even, but that also adds a little bit of that material that it shouldn't change the sink rate since we're going to coat the entire thing with resin, but I'm going to just use my thread instead to even out this fly. I'm not too worried about using extra thread. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to be deep to the fly pattern once we put all the resin on the top of it, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Again, this is just to give it that underbody flash when that fly is moving around in the water. So then we're just going to take this and wrap our material going forward. And I'm doing slightly overlapped wraps. And I'm going to take it back. This is also optional. If you feel like you have pretty good color, you can just stop right there, but to even this body out a little bit and give it a little bit of a taper to start so we don't have to do too much work with our resin, and then tie it right behind the bead, just like that. So I only do 2 wraps. Snip off my extra piece, and I can save this for my next fly. Just set it off to the side. And now all we have to do, grab our whip finishing tool, 1 or 2 whip finishes, and snip off our thread. And that's it for the underside of this body. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our UV resin, whatever resin you like to use. I'm going to straighten my fly out here. I like the Solera's UV thick. You can see there. And we're going to just put a very thin layer right behind the gap of the bead. Fill that in. And then just I'm putting a very thin first layer because we just want to get all of that material coated. We don't want to start building up a huge taper just yet. And then one of the tricks that I like to do is, if you do have this is a ultimate indexer vise, but if you have a rotary vise, it really helps when making this fly. What I did there was I just loosened up my tensioning knob here, so that way it's not indexing, so I can just freely rotate this fly, because I'm going to use this rotator, this rotary portion of the vise, to help smooth out that material on there. So let me go ahead and what it's doing is it's kind of helping that resin coat the whole fly. And I'm going to get my torch ready, and while it's rotating, I'm going to go ahead and bring my torch to it. I'm going to keep it spinning, and then I can start slowing it down. Just like that. And that should be pretty well set up. I like to hold it. It doesn't take more than like maybe 6 to 10 seconds, but I like to give it a little bit longer. I'll test it by touching my finger to it and see if it's tacky. And if it's dry to the touch and nothing's sticking to my finger, I'll go ahead and set my torch down. At this point, I'm going to take a green Copic marker, and this is a G09. And this fly is going to ride inverted the way I placed the bead on the hook, so I'm going to take some green and I'm going to just coat the very top of what this fly would be, just like that. Okay, so just a little bit of color, and once we put our next layer of resin on top of that, it'll build up some depth to the fly. I'm also going to take a fluorescent pink Copic marker, and I'm going to just touch the sides. This is basically what gives it that rainbow pattern look. It's very light. So then I'm going to take my Solera's UV Cure. It's bone dry. I absolutely love this stuff. I use it on a lot of my Euroflies. It just gives it a nice color, nice little sheen, and it dries very, very quick. So now we're starting to build up a little bit of a body on this fly. So if you ever see any dripping, just go ahead and keep your rotary vise moving, and then bring your torch in, and that'll help keep those. It'll help keep that that UV cure evenly coated over the fly. I always move my resin bottle out of the way if it's open, because I don't want any of that to dry up. So we have that nice opal, opaque shimmer to the body of the fly, shining through the pink and the green. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up my indexer on my vise here so I can turn my fly to the side. And now we're going to apply some eyes to this fly. Eyes are optional. I like eyes. Some guys don't even put them on. I like to fish pretty flies, so I think that it also just gives the fish another target to look at on the fly. We're going to just use a silver on this fly. So what I'll do is I'll take my UV thick, and I'll just put a tiny little drop where I want that eye to be, not much, because otherwise it's going to stick out. And then I'll take my eye and I use my Bakken here, and I just touch it on there like that and lay it right on top of that resin. And then I'll use it and I'll just dab it down so it gets flush, and that'll hold there. So I'm going to do the other side. Just a nice little dab of resin. I'm going to grab my other eye, and I'm just going to place it right on that dab of resin. Push it down, grab my torch, and just hit that like that. And that'll cure up those eyes. It's starting to look like a little minnow, little baby fry. We've done really well on this fly, especially when it seems like we get that streamer type of water where the water level rises. It gets a little bit of color to it, and then as it starts to come down and that color starts to clear up in the water, we'll start to use this fly because it's a little bit smaller, it looks natural, and the brown trout really seem to go after it at that point. So when the streamers that the bigger streamers that you're using when you're actively jigging either with your Euro rod or a streamer rod, and as that phase of the streamer water starts to slow down, we'll switch over to fishing something smaller like this, where maybe some of those bigger fish are still looking for a decent meal. It's just straight protein for them. So we're going to go ahead and take our bone dry cures again, and then we're going to go right over top of each eye, and we're going to coat the body again. And this is building up that taper on our minnow. Gonna hit it with our UV cure. And at this point, I do like to spend a little bit more time with the UV light. I like to get that. You can actually feel the heat coming off this light, and it's a pretty nice little light. Gunner actually was the one who was talking about this light on his channel, and I was watching one of his tutorials, and I was like, I absolutely have to go and buy one of those lights. And it's just it's a UV light that's USB, which is nice because like when you're traveling, you can take this wherever you go. Just take a little small USB charger, and everything's wireless. So you don't have to worry about batteries or recharging, except for charging your little battery pack. But it lasts a long time. So that's pretty much it. Just a little fry pattern for whatever you want to do. If you want to use this Euro fishing, you get into crappie fishing. I take my Euro flies and I crappie fish with these, even on conventional tackle. I could take the fly rod as well, but I'm just saying this is a versatile jig. I mean, a jig is a jig. This one is just happens to be made for Euro fly fishing. It is barbless. It's on that Euro style hook. This is a Hannock hook. I absolutely love this hook. I'll tell you which number it is if you like to pick up this hook. The reason why I like it is it's got a really nice gap in the way it just kind of curves in just enough to where it does have some holding strength on the fish, even though it's barbless. So this is a 450 BL, size 10 is that hook. Okay, so thanks for watching. Go ahead and please subscribe to our channel if you really like these little tutorials. We're going to try to bring these live to you, and we want to go ahead and use this platform to interact with people. So if you have questions, you can ask us questions. We can answer you live on the spot. We can set up times. We're going to be doing some, like I said, schedule tying sessions, and look forward to seeing all of you again. And I appreciate you watching this tutorial. So check out our Instagram page if you want some more ideas on different flies you can tie. Have a great week and happy Easter if I don't come back and shoot another video before then. So check you guys later.